Welcome back to another episode of Waking the People. Oh, sorry. Wrong channel. Growing up in the wilds of suburbia. I'm your host, Sir Jada Broshears. Today I wanted to talk about where do you start over or even begin a path to get to closer to your goals and the things you want to experience. What I hear in motivational videos and talks that are about the pursuit of life's goals or life happiness or whatever, commonly hear specific paths that are, like you do it this way, or you do it that way, whatever it is. And I find that a lot of times it's leaving it up to people to figure out how to find out where the hell they're at in the first place. But then once they figure out where they're at, they can jump on that path to get wherever they're going based off of what the instructor or the individual that's giving the talk is telling them how to do it. And there's really no right way or wrong way to do these things. When you miss the target, it just means that you're less practiced and you're practicing because you've missed the target, therefore you were trying. The process is just to keep trying, keep doing something. So, but what I see that's most important is to figure out really where the burden is that once lifted, it'll carry you can proceed into your goals, whatever it is that you have. So figuring out, if you're giving somebody else the responsibility, and when I say that, I mean by blaming others. In most instances, is well, this person's the one that's at fault. This person's responsible. The fastest way to get anywhere that I've ever experienced is to bear the responsibility of whatever it is. So find out where the disempowering piece is. If you say, well, this person's always let me down, well, what is it that you're depending on about that person that you're not being responsible for yourself about that can help you make progress? And that person is more becoming just an excuse for you not to go anywhere. It's a convenient cop-out, and it's one of the most ordinary things to do. I have never spoken to anyone that doesn't want to be extraordinary in some way. No one. My preference is to always connect with people and connect on a profoundly deep level as much as I can. And unfortunately, for most people, they're using the archetype, the structure of excuse, the structure of arguing to stay complacent. And that's what I typically hear when people blame somebody else for something. And I get it, there's always the validation to it, like somebody may have done something, somebody may not have done something. Whatever it is that has you going, well, I was wronged, or I was let down. We're always going to have that, but there's no excuse not to continue. It's for every aspect. If you're constantly in relationships that are not as satisfying as you want them to be, who are you in that relationship? How unsatisfying are you for your partner? I live to, the way that I do relationships is to be the person I wish to date. Be the kind of person that I can't wait to be around. And it's not a manipulation to get people to want to accept me or anything. It's just me wanting, it's just the way that I prefer to be treated. And I like to treat myself the same way. I like to be attentive of another. I was discussing love languages recently. And my love languages, specifically. So if you're not familiar with love languages, there's a book called The 5 Love Languages. It's an excellent book to read. It gives you more of a way of identifying preferences of behavior that can validate love. or the actions and the sensations, like how to actually say, okay, well, if you enjoy, have to read the book to go over all 5 of the love languages, but the way that you enjoy expressing yourself towards your romantic partner and or just people in general, but this one's more centered around romantic partners, but it does branch out with that understanding into regular relationships. But anyway, my love languages, going back, so physical touch, words of affirmation, and acts of service are love languages that I receive very well. And whenever I experience those from my partners, that experience makes me feel that, they're expressing love towards me. Now, my expression, the way that I like to express my love languages are words of affirmation, physical touch, but it's not, by the way, the love languages aren't always how you prefer to feel love languages and how you give them. They don't always have to be the same. So my preference to express them again is words of affirmation, physical touch, and gift giving. Those 3 are my major ones. Acts of service in this is the love language that I don't expect. That's an expectation of my behavior through chivalry. Very chivalrous, so is to cater to develop that. So the love languages are tied into this because being and like loving yourself and identifying where you don't feel like you're feeling love from somebody else is typically a place to work on for yourself. It's not a good idea for you to constantly wait for somebody else to make you feel complete, to make you feel whole. It's a far better thing to actually be complete and be whole by loving yourself completely. And that's a constant job, right? To constantly be at that observation of loving yourself completely. Because there's all kinds of things over time that different experiences expose different perspectives, and you'll find that there may be places that you just aren't giving yourself as much self-care, self-love. But you wouldn't have known it had you not been in that situation to experience it. But prior to that experience or that moment that made you view that you're not quite caring for yourself as much, it could be that you feel like you're completely intact. You've well practiced, well matured in the repetitious experience that you've had, that you've been having, right? You've mastered the regular of your life and the ordinary or the consistency of your life. And then the things that are outside of that, maybe you move to a new place, you change your jobs, you find that, like you end up finding out you're getting divorced or whatever, something has shifted it, now you have to reestablish yourself. And that goes back to this is where you start looking for the center, and it's your center, not anybody else's. The fastest way for me to figure out where my center so I can work towards that is anytime I feel like I want to blame somebody else for something. Because that's me, that I need to work on. We can argue all day and say that, invalidate the fact that other people may not have done something that you had intended or expected them to do. But it still goes back to, for me, it goes back to the work on myself. What is it that I missed? What is it that I can get better at? Was it that I allocated resources inefficiently or ineffectively towards somebody based off of the idea of a promise of something? What was it that I can develop myself further in order to prevent a repeat of that event? By the way, when I say that, preventing a repeat of some event has nothing to do with being jaded or cynical towards people. It just has to do with developing myself further, becoming more mature in that area. This is the common and constant theme in my life. is responsibility will lead to maturity. And who doesn't like, a well-matured person, especially in situations that call for that particular skill set, whatever that skill set is that's been matured. We love those things. Being playful and childlike is not immature. It's, that can be very mature. It's how do you play with others. So whenever I say that, and I bring that up because I have heard a lot of people going, well, there's no fun in being mature. I'm like, the hell there isn't. I have incredible fun. I've matured in these areas. It doesn't mean becoming an old person and just, whittling away into becoming some cantankerous, detestable person that complains about everything. It's nothing like that. That's a false belief. You can mature and play. It's awesome because you can just be yourself. And that's one of the greatest things about that. We have this incredibly complex brain. We've evolved into this and just this magnificent creature. We are a species like none other. And we're so incredibly complex. And we spend our life just trying to get back to the simple. But we're seeking it through complexity. I enjoy it. There's not a moment in my life that I'm not entertained by life. No matter how it occurs. I really don't experience boredom. I haven't experienced boredom in an incredibly long time. Simply because I'm constantly just evaluating and questioning what I know and questioning my own personal theories about the world, so that I'm constantly in that pursuit. So I'm always looking for that center. So when something happens that is outside of my expectations, I can immediately go back to what is it that I can develop myself in. It's never boring. And it creates some of the most incredible conversations. I have a good friend of mine. He is by far and leaps and bounds the most articulate man that I know. He's so incredibly articulate, very intelligent. And from our conversations, we're now in talks about creating more published material. That be videos and being actual developmental programs and things, simply because he also is constantly doing work to develop himself, and we find a lot of support in our conversations for each other and in collaboration for opportunities for the future. Doing this kind of work, it will open doorways that you never expected to open. Things that you've always wanted to do may show up, in my experience, things that you've always wanted show up when you're not really trying to find it. It's fascinating. So I've always wanted to have, that fantastic educational thing that helps people develop themselves further and gets people out of the stickiness of anger and the stickiness of division and this narcissistic reward society that we have. I've always wanted to make a big impact. It's not about the opportunity to become some mega wealthy person. That has nothing to do with why I want to make a difference. I want to make a difference simply because the world is crying for this. In my opinion, the more we develop ourselves and the more mature we make ourselves, the less narcissistic we're going to be, because we want to contribute with others. We want to be a part of each other in life and support of each other, so we can experience a much richer life. And social media and the mainstream media, in which I detest, they all seem to really push narcissism. to get people to be more divisive, and I just can't live in that world without trying to make a difference. So constantly looking for my center so that I can always help others find the light, right? I'm a torch bearer. I want to bring opportunities for insights to people so that even if it's not right for them for where I'm seeing it, it may spark enough of interest so they continue to look for their own answers. I'm not a guru for anyone, simply just trying to help create different views. So with that, you'd be surprised what shows up when you're looking, like when you're working on your center. There are a lot of great things happening. It's actually incredible things happening in my life. And again, you'll know more about that in the very near future. But some of the things that I've always wanted, very much so, I've always wanted. It just the surprise of the way you've wanted something, you put that out there, and then it happens. So you'll find out more about that in the very near future. So, all right. This is going to be the end of the episode for today. But if anything, if you ever feel like you're giving somebody else the responsibility by blaming them for whatever, you're disempowering yourself. Now, certainly they may be culpable for something, but ultimately, you blaming them doesn't really move you forward. It moves you away. Now, it's okay if you move away from them to, put yourself back into a good spot, but it's better if you can identify where you yourself can do something to make your life different. Blame somebody else, move away from them, you can just create a pattern where somebody else is going to do something, and it'll be a different person, and it'll continue. Like, you can create those patterns where it's always to blame somebody else. I always seem to date the wrong people. Who's the lowest common denominator? And I always seem to be dating the wrong people, and that lowest common denominator is you. If you're not looking at you, you're not going to make the biggest changes in your life. You're going to get stuck. And you'll constantly be blaming other people, and you're going to be waiting for you're going to be waiting for the lottery to give you what you want. And that's not something that's, in my opinion, very empowering. Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. I'm your host, Sir Chad Everett Broshears, and creating a powerful life that is extraordinary. It takes something. It's not easy. It really isn't, but it is worth every second of it. So, stick with me. It get a little rough, but it is worth every second. All right, until next time, we'll catch you later. See ya.